I'm looking through the notes that you sent us before the segment, and you say that Donald Trump, the president, has no power to stop this deal. And I'm a little dubious on phrases that start, the president has no power. So explain what you mean by that.
Well, I suppose it should have been phrased has little power, has some power, but not the ultimate say in what happens with a merger that may violate the antitrust laws. I mean, it's a really, sort of deep decision-making process, and the two antitrust agencies that oversee mergers, the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice, ultimately the decision makers there decide whether they want to sue to block a deal that they think violates antitrust laws. And I think the important thing to understand is that even those agencies, even though they've been given antitrust enforcement authority, don't have the ability to stop two companies that have entered a deal from closing that deal. They have to go to a court, they have to seek an injunction, and a judge has to order that injunction. They have to win in court. So a president can say, hey, to the people they appoint, I don't like this deal. Think about this deal. You know what my agenda is. I don't like this deal. But those enforcers are usually people who are antitrust thinkers, who apply a fact-based analysis. And frankly, if they don't have the evidence to support the fact that the deal violates the law, they're not going to want to go before a judge. And even if they do, this judge could be an Obama-appointed judge or a Bush-appointed judge. They might not necessarily be, pushing the new president's agenda.
All right, so there's what the president-elect said, and then there's what he can do. John, what about the companies themselves, AT&T and Time Warner? Have you heard any noise from them? Are they positioning themselves one way or the other now that we have a Trump administration coming?
I mean, great question. I think they're working it behind the scenes, as a lot of companies do when there's a deal pending. The president's power really resides with the FCC. He has appointees there. Frankly, I'm surprised we're even talking about this. I mean, this FCC is changing from a Democrat-controlled agency now to a Republican-controlled agency, which I imagine is going to be very pro-deal.
Even though Donald Trump has said that he would not approve this kind of deal.
He hates the media. He really is at war there a little bit, and I think that was part of the rhetoric. But I think the reality is the people he has in place really want to see regulations, a pullback in regulation of not just telecom. I think overall in the business landscape, they want to see less regulation, and that tends to favor approval of the deal, in my view. So I think AT&T and Time Warner are probably working some backroom deals to see how they can get this done.
It kind of sounds like one of those situations which Trump has said a lot of things. Sometimes even the people he surrounds himself might not be completely in line with that. But let's look at what the situation has been under the Obama presidency, because, of course, in the news, we've had a lot of these deals that have come under quite a bit of scrutiny. How is that poised to change here? And has it been a period where there have been more of a spotlight put on these big deals?
Yeah, I think that is the case. I think we have seen more aggressive enforcement in the Obama administration. Ultimately, at one level of enforcement, I think we've seen the Obama administration appointees at the Department of Justice and Federal Trade Commission as people who are more willing to actually go to court to try to block a deal. What we saw in the George W. Bush administration was just as much investigation, as much skepticism and questioning of these big deals, but less of a willingness to go to court. So backing off, allowing them to go ahead and enter a remedy, sell off assets that maybe today they wouldn't agree on. But I totally agree with John that what we're seeing, not just at the FCC, but possibly at the FTC and DOJ under Donald Trump, are people who may be much more friendly to business, lighter on regulation, more likely to think in terms of the efficiencies that come from some of these deals rather than the harm that come from the deals. We don't know yet who Trump will be appointing at the FTC or DOJ, but we do know the people who are in charge of that transition effort. And they are what you might think of as traditional Republicans. Let the markets regulate themselves, hands off. We don't know how to regulate a business.